Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another DA Musical HQ session. This time it's another discovery session, which is always very, very exciting. And this afternoon is no different. We have Ciaran McNally from McNally Guitars, all the way from Northern Ireland, which is going to be super fun. Looking forward to this. It's been on the cards for a couple of months now, so we're super excited. But yeah, just to remind you that we still support the World Health Organization COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund. So if you would like to donate anything this afternoon, 10% of that will go to them to assist them in their fight to get rid of this virus. But yeah, without much further ado, I'm going to go to the new workshop that Ciaran has moved into, and here we are. How are you, Mr. McNally?
Oh, I'm very well, very, very well. How are you? Good to speak to you.
Yeah, good to have you on board. We this has been on the cards since like March.
It has, and I kept pushing you because I was sort of moving in here and thought, no, it'll look better next week. It'll look better next week. So we finally got there in the end.
Well, it's great. It's great. I had a little sneak preview before bringing you on. So you've got a nice little workshop there, which is going to be great to have a look at.
Yeah. Glad to have you here to show you around. This is really the first sort of look that anyone has had, I think. I haven't even really posted any photos or anything yet. So
I beat Michael Watts to it.
It's a sneak peek. It's exclusive.
If you can beat Michael Watts to any sneak preview, that's a good feat.
Right.
Cool. But yeah. So amazingly, you were quite a big shot at Loudon Guitars for some time, right?
Oh, I don't know if I was a big shot, but I worked there, and I worked on various stages of the guitars for the years that I was there. Yeah,
that's fantastic. And Loudon also built some great machines as well.
Mm.
Yeah, but not as good as you.
No comment.
No comment.
Because guitar players can decide.
No, of course,
we
exactly.
Just make them.
We just leave it up to the battle on stage, right?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, I mean, give us a little bit of insight. Like, I know the first guitar that you built was at the age of 16 on your kitchen table, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Did
I probably
out
started
nicely?
a little bit before that. Even I started with kits. You know, you can buy all the parts and you sort of assemble them and put the guitar together.
Yeah.
But probably naturally progressing on from that, you decide you don't really want to buy the parts anymore. You want to make the parts.
Yeah.
So I started looking into that, and at that time there was a course, an evening course at a college in Belfast, and that was when I was 16. I started going to that then, and I initially went with the intention of making an electric guitar,
okay,
a Les Paul, and the tutor on that course, a luthier called Sam Irwin, he sort of told me, well, you know, most people here make acoustics, and a lot of the skills are transferable. So if you're interested in acoustics at all, maybe you would make an acoustic, and you could also make an electric at home or on the side, and you could maybe do both at the same time. So I started into making an acoustic then, which was a copy of a Martin 000,
okay,
mahogany cedar guitar, and that was it really. I've never made electric since.
okay.
Just got hooked on acoustics and the whole process of building them really.
Well, they've certainly, I would say, since the 90s, there has been a massive influx of popular acoustic guitar back into the scene, which I think has been a massive helping hand, because I think right up to the 90s there was a lot of electric influence, and and I think
there was a kind of explosion of more options in the acoustic guitar market as well, and lots of people have been willing to spend their money on smaller brands and luthiers and stuff like that. And I think interestingly that's now transferring to the electric market in a way that it wasn't before.
For sure.
Lots of boutique electric guitar makers are really starting to convince people to spend money there. Whereas before, I think electric particularly, it was really always about those big brands.
Exactly.
And now I think people are willing to look at other things a lot more.
Oh, which is
but
great.
That's true of the acoustic guitar market as well, thankfully, for people like me.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness it's just not only the big brands that you can find, right?
Yeah, it's got to be more interesting.
Yeah.
And there's got to be more value for people in buying something that's not as mass produced and is maybe more unique to them, and they can have more of a connection with how it was made.
For sure.
And hopefully, maybe there's less globalization in materials and things like that.
Absolutely.
For those purposes.
Yeah, I just love the fact that if you get a sort of a custom built guitar from a low quantity workshop, you're bound to get a far better quality instrument. I mean, surely that I could sort of make that generalization, because I tell you what, I've seen so many big brand guitars that are just poorly built.
Yes, well, there's a bit of both. There's some factories churning out lots of guitars that are actually really, really high build quality. There has to be sometimes a separation between constructional quality and tonal quality, and the quality of the feel of an instrument is different sometimes. And I think that's where the lower volume workshops separate.
Sure.
And in some cases, you might actually find that the lower volume workshops, the quality isn't as high as a really big manufacturing outfit that has lots of custom machinery, and they're at such high volume, they're just churning stuff out, that they've perfected it to every possible nth degree. Whereas the smaller guys, it's more nuanced, with every guitar is slightly different, but the quality transfers from build into tonal and the kind of feel of the instrument as well. But also, you're buying into something maybe more unique in a brand with a luthier or a smaller workshop that is maybe a bit more faceless with bigger companies.
Sure. A little bit more, sort of almost a unique approach, rather than sort of a mass built sort of perfect product. But yeah,
I think as well, when it happened in the previous financial crisis, and maybe what we're about to be going into now, it'll happen again. But people will still buy guitars, but I think they've become even more discerning.
Mm-hmm.
They're maybe not buying as many guitars, but they want more value for their money. And maybe you get that with luthiers and smaller workshops too, because you're buying into more of an experience and you're getting a more tailored instrument.
That's something more personal, more. Yeah, I think we need to have a bit more personal touch with regards to most of the industry at the moment, and I think, as you say, that's what you'll find with a luthier built guitar,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those two on the wall there, what are those? Are those stringless for a reason?
Yes. So they're actually both in the process of being finished. The one closest to us is a gloss guitar, and I've just polished it for the first time. And the one next to it is actually going to be a matte guitar, and I just spread the first coat yesterday. So the next one actually glued on. I've just bolted them quickly because that wall looks pretty boring otherwise. So I just thought I'd quickly put them up there.
Okay, I'm sure you'll quickly
to have a nice background.
I'm sure you'll
I'll lift them down here, maybe show them at the camera.
Yeah.
So that's Honduras rosewood.
Wow.
If you can see that. That's an Adirondack top. Gloss finish.
Oh, the Florentine cutaway.
Yeah, they're both Florentine, and can you tell these are for the same person?
Yes.
That's Sitka spruce and a walnut back
Wow.
inside. That's shiny at the moment, but it's just because the lacquer's fresh.
Yeah.
Really.
Oh.
But yeah, they're actually a bit of a special project going to the same person. I can't really say anything more about that at the minute.
No.
I have to wait. I have to wait for the person to get it and hopefully be happy with them.
What is the scale length of those two?
They are like a full standard scale, 25.5 inches. Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. That'd be would be great to have strings on them, but
I know. Maybe another week or two, but
no, that's fine.
I think I delayed you long enough, really.
That's great. And tell me something like I mean, we'll probably want to go and have a look a little bit at the workshop soon, but tell me a little bit about your thoughts with regards to wood and sustainability. I know it's something that people are talking about quite a bit at the moment. And
yes, I mean, where possible, I will choose a sustainable option. I'm not as far down the scale as some other makers who are maybe committing to only using certain woods. I do sort of just do my best to operate within the rules of CITES restrictions and things like that.
Yeah.
I've started to use a lot more of the artificial ebony and rosewood and stuff like that for fingerboards and bindings, and really because it doesn't really make much of a difference to the instrument, and in some cases it looks better. It's easier to work with, it's slightly cheaper as well, it's lighter in weight, it's more stable. There's lots and lots of benefits to that. Unfortunately, I'm not a guitar maker who jumps on something as a gimmick. It has to really fit in with what I do. And the likes of using those artificial timbers, like I've explained there's lots and lots of good reasons to use those, so it makes perfect sense. At the minute, I'm still using things like Indian rosewood for backs and sides and stuff like that, but I like to think that being low volume and making high quality instruments, that I'm making something that will last. I don't believe that it's a squandered piece of wood. I hope that the guitars I'm making will outlive me, outlive the person who buys them.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a good use of those timbers. So as long as we can support legal forestation in our supply chain and replanting within the supply chain, so purchasing wood from FSC sources and stuff like that, I'm okay to keep using those things. I've never used Brazilian rosewood for a guitar. I don't have any. If I could get some that was certified, I might use it. Like I say, I'm not totally against it, but I'm not in a rush to use it either. Because I'm also not a guitar maker who gets particularly romantic about certain woods. I'm more on the pragmatic scale. I don't believe a certain wood has a certain tonal quality every time. I think what really matters is the weight and the density and the texture. It just so happens that a piece of wood within one species will have a more consistent spread of weight and density and stuff like that. So you do tend to get generalizations within tone wood that mahogany will give you this type of tone and a rosewood will give you this type of tone. But by far and away, the bigger determining factor is what the guitar maker does with it.
Absolutely.
So I don't believe people should buy tone wood. They should buy from the guitar maker that they think will make the guitar that suits them, and then choosing the tone wood from the guitar maker that you've selected is the sort of secondary last 5% of how you're going to get the tone that you need.
Totally correct.
And the aesthetic that you need as well.
Yeah, otherwise...
So I'm a big fan of fairly plain, readily available timbers, and I use quite a bit of African timbers that are actually in pretty good supply as well. Paddock and Purple Heart, they're quite striking as well. So they make interesting guitars as well.
And they generally, I mean, I think Paddock is it's also quite a firm wood as well, isn't it?
Yes, a Purple Heart as well. Yeah. It's like concrete, to be honest, to try and bend it, but it does make a really good guitar.
Yeah.
Very high projection because it is so dense,
But that's a valid point. I think, with regards to being a low quantity luthier as opposed to the big brands that are pumping out, you know, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of guitars. Those are the guys that need to really be cautious about what wood they are using.
Yes, and there has to be a kind of stewardship and a kind of responsibility in terms of, you know, it would sort of be weird to say that there needs to be like a council that decides this kind of stuff, but who's allowed to use the timber?
Well,
and are they going to do a good enough job with it? That, you know, that has to be a concern. Sometimes I sort of see, you know, beginner luthiers using very, very high-end timber, and sometimes I have to not look at that, have to not pay attention, because sometimes I feel like that's not a good use of that timber, and maybe there needs to be some kind of like graduating scale.
Like you should have built at least 150 guitars before you're able to use this grade, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily that the volume would be the deciding factor, but yeah, it's a really difficult one, because there are some new guitar makers who do a fantastic job as well. So it's
Absolutely.
I'm not sort of saying there should be a blanket against that. It would be a very, very difficult topic to approach. But like I say, just coming at the wood with the perspective of stewardship, and you have to do right by the wood as well. You have to make something that is going to last and that is good quality.
Absolutely. Ah, fascinating discussion. I just see a lot of people are obviously getting quite concerned from an environmental point of view, and there's a lot of reason for it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the carbon footprint of the wood. Sometimes I'll buy a wood from an African wood, but I'll have bought it from a US supplier.
Yeah.
And I think of all the darting across the world that wood has done, just doesn't seem right either.
No. Just sitting in one of those containers on a ship for months and months.
Yeah.
Or, you know, put them in an airplane, which is also just as bad.
I did hear of a contact here locally yesterday who I'm going to go see, who was a former tree surgeon in these areas, and apparently has a massive stock of very interesting native timbers.
Wow.
A sort of maverick character who doesn't have a website, who doesn't have a mobile phone. So I'm going to try and approach this over the next few months and see what he's got hidden away, if there is anything that I can use that doesn't have those impacts.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Ireland is we don't really have a lot of trees large enough for guitar making. So when you do occasionally find them, it might even be more rare than some of these woods, you know.
Maybe. Interesting. So, what do you think we're going to have a look at the new workshop?
Yeah, sure. Let me see if I can lift this camera, and we'll come out into the hallway. I'll take you to the front of the building here.
Oh, brilliant.
So this is kind of the business park, and where you would come in and park.
That's great.
And then you come into this hallway. Just left, you've got a little toilet there. And I've just jarred all these doors open so we can sort of come in and out of the rooms. But I'll maybe take you in the order that a guitar would move.
Okay. That's cool.
Does that seem like the smart thing to do?
Absolutely.
So this is really the main room, the main machine room. And I'm sure, as everyone who says when they walk in here, the light and this kind of wall of glass was the main reason I just jumped at this as soon as I seen it, really. Thankfully, there is a shutter there that I can put down when I need to as well. But yeah, this is the main machine room where all the woodwork happens, really. Got my wood store is in these cupboards.
Wow.
Various neck blocks, fingerboards, head phasings. This is the spoken for pile, which is my favorite one. That's guitars where people have chosen a specific piece of wood.
Wow.
Based on either visiting me or photos. That's got people's names on it, basically.
Reserved.
And then in this cupboard, we've got all the other tops and backs and sides, bracing material.
Fantastic.
I got my little humidity sensor there that's keeping an eye on everything for me. And there is a dehumidifier in there.
What humidity are you sitting at in there?
In there, it's pretty constant at 45.
Okay.
There's an intelligent Wi-Fi dehumidifier in there that just kind of pulses on and off when it needs to. And it's a confined space, so it's very easy to control that such a smaller space, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the wood would come out of there. I'm going to close that. And then start to get processed. And basically within this room, it'll all get made in the wood, as we would call it. The guitar and the neck will be completely finished in here. And it's only the rest of the rooms are really just for the final processes of the guitar.
Like lacquering and polishing and stuff like that.
Thickness sander. It's an extractor there. Got a sander here. This is soon to be a fret press.
Wow.
Pillar drill, another sander, and a bandsaw. And then we've got various routers and clamps and such under the bench. This is actually the next batch of guitars that I just did the jointing on yesterday, and I've thicknessed. So this is basically ready to turn into guitars. I've put them in an order, so I can probably talk you through what they're going to be. That is mahogany, and that will be an all mahogany parlor model.
Wow.
Then we've got cedar and rosewood. And that will be a cedar rosewood OM.
Wow.
I mean,
look at that rosewood set, eh?
Wow. Sitka rosewood. That will be a new model, which is a dreadnought.
Jeez.
And then we've got Sitka mahogany. That will be an S model, which is a small guitar I make.
Oh.
And then we've got Sitka and black walnut, which is quite nice.
Oh.
That will be a jumbo model. So the first batch I'm making in this workshop is 5, which is actually a bit of a bumper batch. I normally make 4 at a time, but I'm making 5 kind of for photography reasons.
Okay.
And because there is the new dreadnought there. So
are all of those pre-ordered, or are you actually just building them because you can?
As stock. Yes, well, the plan was I was just going to build them as stock.
Okay.
Because there's some new models in there, and I want to get photography for them of those, particularly for certain reasons, which will become clear later. But so I decided I would make those, and I've sort of portioned off these build slots just to make those 5 as stock. But since I started them, actually 2 of them have now sold. So
of course,
things don't seem to hang around at the minute.
No.
I think people got in touch, and I'm now sort of taking orders for February of next year. So these are some of the only available guitars until then.
Oh wow!
That's why people sort of jumped on them when they could, really.
Jeez, wow.
So those are ready to sort of start making into guitars, really.
What? How long from doing the sets together to a finished product?
For me, it's going to be 2 months. Because
2 months for all 5?
I'll actually be making 2 batches at a time, and one batch will be in the spray booth.
Okay.
Another batch will be in here. So it's not that the whole guitar takes 2 months to make, but the whole process is sort of dragged out over a couple of batches to 2 months.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
This is interesting. This is actually a laser machine which we're building.
Huh.
Which I say it's mostly a family member who's an engineer, because I wouldn't be particularly good at any of this kind of stuff unless it's curvy and made of wood. I'm of no use really to anyone. So the most I've done is help with the frame. But the engineer in question is very talented and has done all of this. And this is actually the laser tube in the back,
that's incredible.
Surely the stuff of sci-fi.
Well, I mean, you've got to have some sci-fi.
It is working. It is now cutting, which is nice.
Wow.
But it needs some extraction fitted, which will happen hopefully in the next week, and then we'll box this all in, because it's not fully safe to have it exposed, but also we don't want any dust getting on these
For sure.
servos and motors and the water chiller and various things. So, but it is a good way to do this if you've got an engineer who can do it, because it's about a third the cost of buying laser machines.
For sure.
And these are just incredibly useful things for, cutting out profiles and small parts like bridge plates.
Oh wow! Yeah, that'll save you
that
an immense amount of time.
Yeah, it's not necessarily just about the time saving. For me, a lot of the stuff is about accuracy.
Yeah.
I could probably make some of them in the same amount of time, but it won't be millimetrically accurate like this is. And if you can apply that accuracy to every stage of the guitar, the benefit actually becomes exponential as you travel through the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
You sort of gain all these wins along the way, and they add up to something much bigger than each. They're greater than the sum of their parts. So that's that. And as I mentioned to you previously, I did find out yesterday, thankfully, that I've ordered a CNC machine, and I was kind of afraid to ask about it, because every time I'd asked about it, they kept telling me it was delayed. But I did hear yesterday, finally, it's going to be here next week, which is good. So it's just a little small tabletop machine, which will fit in that space. And again, people can be wary when you say the word CNC and how is it being used and all these kind of things. Again, I'm not into this stuff for speed necessarily. It's more about accuracy and creating a better product. And I've never been romantically attached to any method of guitar making. I just choose the method that makes the best guitar. Absolutely. That's the only thing that matters to me. Absolutely. And now that some of this technology is accessible to smaller shops, for things like fret slots and location holes on bridges and necks and stuff like that, it's really just about improving the guitar. Some of the things on the CNC, for instance, I could do quicker by hand.
Yeah.
But
you're not assured you're not assured that each time you're going to get the same result.
Yes. And when you couple the CNC with the laser and other sort of good quality equipment, absolutely. You're really, like I say, you're adding little wins at every single stage of the guitar.
For sure. Yeah. And is it just you in the workshop, or do you actually have sort of one or two fellows to assist?
No, it's just me, and that is the plan going forward now.
Okay.
Can I switch this camera?
Yeah.
You can see me again. Yeah, it's just me. At the minute, it's really busy because David, who's doing the engineer doing the laser machine, he's here quite a bit. There's been contractors here doing a lot of stuff from spray booths and extraction and various things. But it's quite good as well, because in this business park, my two brothers are 2 doors down. So there's a bit of company and all that kind of stuff.
That's good.
It's also really close. You probably can't see there, but just past those fields actually is where I grew up as well.
Wow.
So it's very close to home in many ways.
Yeah, I can imagine you wouldn't actually be, just having had a look at the size of the room there, I don't think you'd want to have 1 or 2 people in there with you.
No, you could probably get
maybe
one or two if they're working independently. They're not on top of each other. But it's, like I say, it's an impressive space, but once you really fill it out with everything you need, you really do. It really is just right and no more.
Exactly.
In many ways.
Exactly.
Now I've been really generous to myself with these benches. Obviously, they're massively deep.
Oh, that's great.
Benches. That's my guitar I was jointing yesterday. So I'll take you through into the other rooms here. So I say the guitars would all the wood work would happen here, and then the body and the neck would travel separately into this room, which is sanding and polishing. And really just preparing the guitar for lacquer, and then in between the coats of lacquer, coming back in here to
have another
do the work in between the coats and get the surfaces all flat, ready for the next coat. And then once it's all finished, actually polished there as well.
Wow.
Some of the guitars, I do a gloss finish and the satin finish. So the polisher really is only for the gloss guitars.
Yeah.
But they'll get prepped for spraying, and then they would come into this room, which is the spray booth. So this was a blank room about a couple of weeks ago, really, and we fitted this in, and there's now large extraction. You can kind of hear it there.
Oh, you need that.
Switch. There's a false wall behind this, and then 2 ports for 2 large industrial flame-proof fans, which are actually sitting above us here then, which then vent out to the side of the building. Thankfully, this is the end unit, so I have a gable wall, which is this wall basically. Everything can vent out of. Yeah. So interestingly, hidden under here is the compressor for the spray booth, which plumbs into the spray room, but we've hidden it because it's a kind of industrial looking thing. So we just put a worktop on top of it, plumbed it in, and that's actually an air dryer. So the air comes out of the compressor, and this machine removes any moisture. Yeah. Sort of decants it into this bucket, so you get bone dry air through the spray gun, which is
definitely what you need. Otherwise,
that's a real good benefit for spraying.
Yeah, otherwise you get flatter finish. You get less adherence if you've got liquid in the varnish.
Yeah, particularly for certain types of lacquer. I use different types of lacquer for different things. I use a 2-pack acid catalyst, and I also use a nitrocellulose for some things. And nitrocellulose in particular is very susceptible to moisture. Sure. You'll get this kind of blooming effect that, depending on where you are, can be a problem. Then this room is actually just final setup.
Wow.
So the guitars, once they've been polished, they'll come in here. The neck will get glued to the body. The bridge will get glued on. The nut and saddle will get made with those smaller machines. And then the guitar will get strung up, and it'll probably live on that rack for a little while before it gets shipped out, or it'll come into the office to sit. So when I first came in here, I thought this hallway is a bit extravagant, isn't it? It's maybe a little bit of a waste of space, but actually we've put the compressor in it, and this extractor, which is plumbed to those machines. So now I've got these noisy things in the hallway. It's actually pretty good. I don't have to listen to them when I'm in these rooms. Exactly. So that was quite a good little win, actually. So yeah, the guitars would get strung up here, and then I guess if they don't ship out right away, they'll come into the office here and hang. And this is where people, if they're coming to visit, can sit and have a little play, really. So there we go. I'll maybe just walk back into the main room here. That's just a little kitchen which I left out, just for tea and coffee and such. The only other thing I really do there is sharpening. Got my sharpening wheel up there. That's it. So I'll maybe just try and park myself here.
Oh, it's great. It looks fantastic. It looks really fantastic what you've done there.
Yeah, it's all going well. Very pleased to be in, and everything's kind of done now. So, like I say, I was jointing those tops and backs yesterday, and once we get these other little machines up and running, then there's nothing left to do except make lots of guitars. And thankfully, there's been really good interest in the guitars recently too. So that's been very, very encouraging.
Where is the majority of your client base, just out of interest, or is it very kind of spread out?
It's pretty spread out. I'd say most of the guitars I've made have either stayed within Ireland or have actually gone to Germany.
Okay.
I don't know why. Germany seems to be a little bit of a hotspot for me. I've had for a few orders direct from Germany, but I guess also one of my dealers, the Fellowship of Acoustics in the Netherlands, they probably sell quite a lot to Germany too. I think they're quite close to the German border. I think.
Yeah, you're not the only luthier who said Germany's like as a hotspot zone. Yeah, people buy guitars here like you can't believe. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think there's an appreciation for the luthier stuff in Germany too at the moment.
Absolutely.
But there's other. I've got dealers in London and Nashville and a couple of new ones coming on now soon as well in some other countries as well. So that's all exciting.
The video I used, I think his name is David Chun, from one of your dealers in Korea. I think it's South Korea.
Yes, fine luthiers. Yeah, he's a great player.
But yeah, that gives me an idea that Asia is also fairly advanced on your client list.
Yes, and yes, there's a few more things coming in the future there as well.
That's exciting.
With Asia.
That's exciting. Wow. No, it's fantastic, man. It's been really fantastic just to kind of see where you are and get a kind of an idea as to where these magical instruments come from. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you first got in touch, it probably seemed like a bad time. I just moved back here from England and I was trying to get a workshop set up, but I think as we started conversing, we realized actually this is probably quite interesting to show you around.
Yeah, and I think
workshop and I think it's given me a date to work to.
Absolutely, and I think like people are genuinely interested in where the guitar comes from, and you know that it could be that they're first time buyers or whatever, and maybe they've bought from you already, but it's such a nice idea to show people the new HQ and where these machines are built.
Yeah, hopefully, you know, and hopefully the whole pandemic thing will calm down a bit in the future and people can actually come visit as well, because I think it is a nice place to visit.
Absolutely,
it's pretty handy to Belfast and Dublin.
Absolutely,
and I would look forward to having people here and trying guitars, and I'm planning a few events actually.
That would be great
for when we can open, and there'll be sort of food and music and whiskey and coffee and guitars and all those things.
Oh, great! Coffee and guitars, I love that. Yeah. Now I've got a bit of a plan to kind of take this particular setup and to do a little bit more traveling and kind of make it a bit more mobile, you know.
Yeah.
And to try and do them more kind of face to face, but of course at the moment it's just not feasible. And you know, with the travel bans and all that sort of stuff, it's just a nightmare to even consider.
No.
So
it's a crazy time, but I'm thankful that actually this was probably one of the best times for me to do this.
Yeah.
That there wasn't really anything else to do except come in here and build benches and
totally,
you know, order stuff and get materials and make jigs and all those kind of things. It's if we look at this time that we've had in the pandemic as kind of dead space, I was able to fill it with all these kind of things that weren't guitar making actually. Well, and now that we're coming out the end of it, I guess I'm almost ready to go forward.
Normally you probably would have been way too busy to even consider like moving into a new space.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of, I think it's done that for a lot of people. It's kind of got a lot of people off the rat race a bit.
Absolutely.
And I was thinking about what they should really be doing, maybe.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Now, I certainly would love to come and see it in person and come and play a few guitars, and I've got a mind to also go and hopefully meet George Loudon at some point.
Yeah. I mean, he's only probably
around the corner,
an hour or so from here. So, you know, Ireland is quite a hotspot for the guitar industry, really, especially relative to our size.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of really quite high-end guitars made here for what is a small population compared to other countries.
Absolutely.
And of course, the culture of music is so very strong here that, I mean, you'll have a great time.
Absolutely. No, I would love to. I'd love to come there. And then there are a couple of luthiers down in Scotland as well. Some really good ones there. So yeah, just to do like a week or 2 week sojourn through the north of the UK would be great. Cool, man. But yeah, look, it's been fantastic to see the new spot. Huge thumbs up, and hope the next 5 that you've got underway there come together nicely, and fill that book up now.
Yeah. Well, there'll hopefully be a little celebration here. I don't know. It'd probably just be family and friends, but when those first 5 get tuned to pitch,
Oh,
I think it'll be a little bit of a christening moment for the workshop. So I'll maybe touch base with you again if you want
that would
to
be
have a look
cool.
at those.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, once they're finished, it would be great to see the finished product and just have a listen and that kind of thing. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
I have to try and listen to them before Michael Watts does.
Get the exclusive scoop. Yeah.
Good, man. But look, thank you so much for your time, and I know you're a busy man there, and look forward to seeing those guitars and yeah, to keeping in touch.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Thank you so
Good to
much
speak
for your
with you.
time, and we'll see you again soon, Ciaran.
Okay, thanks, Dominic.
Cheers,
See ya.
buddy. Bye for now. So yeah, that was Ciaran McNally. Fantastic to see him. What a great space. If you haven't got your hand on some of those guitars, by all means you need to do it. They are absolutely incredible. I will be taking a break for a couple of weeks. I'm taking a bit of holiday, so looking forward to that. And after that, I will have a couple of more interesting sessions lined up for you. But yeah, otherwise, look after yourselves. Thank you very much for popping in, everyone, to be a part of the discussion with Ciaran. And yeah, look forward to having you back in the